we spent the past couple of years in a crazy hot market. Louisville home sales decline as demand outpaces supply. Effective communication is at the core of any situation. If you master these two ideas, you'll have a chance of being successful at residential real estate marketing. I think you need to be looking for investment opportunities that move the needle. The market will never crash if demand exceeds supply. This is what I've been telling you all along.
This is the Jay Pitts Show.
And we're back, folks. Welcome back to the Jay Pitts Show. I'm your host, Jay Pitts, here with Ryan Harris. Feels like a Friday.
Yeah. We were just talking. It feels like a Friday, but it's because it's Derby week, so it's. I feel like Monday almost feels like a Friday sometimes. Yeah.
This year. Now Ryan didn't participate this year because he ran in the Derby mini marathon, but he actually ran the full.
Yes, thank you.
Well, the event is the mini marathon, technically speaking, right? Or at least that's the most popular.
That's what 90% of the people run.
90% of the people will only run half. Ryan ran the full. Don't want to take any credit away.
There were like out of the 11,000 people that ran, only 1,300 did the full.
That's incredible.
So
Ryan had to nurse his feet and legs back to health. He wasn't ready on Monday to play in a golf scramble.
No, that would have been bad.
It probably would have been bad. I probably
would have torn something.
The drinking involved probably would not have been good for your system either.
Yeah, but I drank a good bit after the marathon. I did last year too, which hurts your recovery. But
there's a lot of carbs.
Yeah, the marathon went well. Broke 4 hours, and it was very hot, and I was proud of how I handled my nutrition throughout the race because I would feel some little cramps here and there, and I would take extra gels, and I was even expecting to. I brought salt tablets, so I really came prepared, and I needed everything I brought.
Really?
Never really got a major cramp. Definitely slowed down towards the end because I think I was scared of catching a cramp.
Yeah.
But, yeah, very happy with how it went, and my recovery this time around was way faster. So legs feel 100% now. Right foot has a little pain in it. Yeah. I don't know if it's bruised just from pounding, but I think I'll probably run tomorrow.
So, question, did you pre and post weigh yourself?
No.
Okay. So
I should have known.
I'm curious.
I would like to have known how much sweat I lost.
So that's what I was curious to know. So I lost in 2007. Now, you can't compare Ryan's running and my running. They're just completely different. I'm an elephant out there. But to put it in perspective, Ryan broke 4 hours as his goal. My goal was to run a 4 hour, 20-minute. I did not make it. I was closer to 5 hours. I had a disaster of a race. A disaster of a second half, I should say. And it is because I ran an equally impressive first half.
Yeah.
Right? I ran an hour 38 for the first half, which is faster than I ran a 10-miler 3 weeks prior, which is stupid because I was unprepared, right? Unprepared. I had gels. I had salt. I waited too long. It was also hot that day.
Yeah, I had a gel every 20 minutes.
Yeah. So I waited too late. I cramped horribly. I had to stop and walk. I had to alternate between walking and jogging because my hips and my calves were both cramping. So like walking hurt the calves, jogging hurt the hips. It was awful. But I lost 9 pounds.
Wow.
9 pounds. I weighed myself the morning of. I weighed myself when I got home after, and I had lost 9 pounds. And I had 2 beers afterwards. So, I had already started putting stuff back in my body, so that was accounted for in the weight, some of it at least. And I was still 9 pounds down.
It's crazy when you get done and you look at your shirt and hat, and there's just salt on your skin from just sweat.
It's wild, man. It's wild.
I think growing up, you would hear of salt would dehydrate you. It was almost like what you thought, but
no.
It's kind of the complete opposite.
It allows your body to hold the moisture that it needs. So you sweat out the sodium faster than you sweat out the moisture. And so basically replacing the sodium allows you to hold on to the water you keep drinking.
Yeah.
So anyway, wild stuff, man.
Yeah, Congrats. It was good. Raised $3,600 for Donate Life.
I was just about to ask.
Very happy. Or it was $3,650 actually. Got $50 after the race. So
very cool.
Yeah, very happy with that amount, and it was cool to do that. So
very cool. So Ryan was still recovering and didn't get to do the debaucherous golf scramble with us on Monday, but we had a great event sponsored by our friends at Limestone Title and Escrow. So raising some good money there.
Who won the scramble?
So I don't know is the funny part. we didn't play as well as we'd liked, but we were still 11 under. And we would have come in second in our heat, which I think was the lower heat, which I don't know how.
Handicaps.
I don't know. I didn't turn in handicaps, so maybe they just looked them up. But I wouldn't have expected us to be in the lower heat.
Yeah.
But we got second in the lower heat, supposedly. But I don't even remember who won.
Got it. All right. Cool, man. Let's see here. Anything else to go over before we get into the show?
No, I think we're good, man. What do you got? What do you got planned for us?
Cool. Let's get off. Let's start the show a little different this time. So I don't have a real estate question from an agent or anything like that. You know, we used to do on this show, like, what would you rather? We'll start out with that. And it's,
okay.
I think this is a very good question that'll spark a good conversation. I heard one of these options from another podcast. Can't remember what it was. And then it got me thinking, like, well, what would be worse? So, all right, here's a question. What would be worse for the world? A, everyone in the world's hearing only works for a 5-foot max distance. So you can hear everybody within 5 feet around you, but as soon as they're outside that 5-foot distance, can't hear a thing.
Okay.
B, everyone's eyesight only worked for a 5-foot max distance.
Okay. That's easy, but I do have a question. A qualifier on the hearing. I'm assuming you can hear people talk on the telephone because the telephone is inside 5 feet.
I don't know.
So,
yes.
Okay.
That would make sense.
Well, because otherwise, you wouldn't be able to hear a dog bark if it was 5 feet away.
Yeah.
It's whatever's producing the sound. So basically, you can't hear anything if the sound is produced more than 5 feet away.
Yes.
Okay. Still, with or without that stipulation, hearing, hands down.
Yeah.
Hearing needs to be limited, not sight. I mean, think about it. Your transportation, I mean, just like you would die without being able to see more than 5 feet.
Yeah. We all have to get around by, like, trains, actually. Or
I mean, how do you get on the train? You can't even see it until you're 5 feet away. How many people would be hit by trains?
Remember the eyesight was the one I heard. I heard it on Theo Vaughn's podcast.
Well, of course, this is mind-bending because it's Theo Vaughn.
How would you show real estate? You just have to walk the whole house, every square foot.
like this.
Home inspections would take a week.
Home inspections would take a week. Lord, that's funny.
Or
how would you build houses? How would you do anything?
I don't know.
How would you do anything?
5 feet.
5 feet?
It'd be tough. We just all are. You're at a bar trying to meet somebody, and you just have to get like super close to anybody.
So awkward. So awkward. I love it.
All right.
Definitely sound. Definitely.
Let's
hearing.
see. What's bad about the sound one, though? I mean,
well, you couldn't hear the train that you're about to walk in front of.
Imagine going to a football game and only hearing the people 5 feet around you, though. And you're watching the game.
You can't cheer.
You can't hear any.
Like, that's no good. You're only cheering for the people that are 5 feet next to you.
Yeah.
So bad.
A concert.
Oh, no.
Those don't exist.
They wouldn't exist because the concert would have to be for 5 people because the only 5 people could fit within a 5-foot radius of you.
Now, there are people that actually can't hear at all. So they're probably like, I would love to hear 5 feet.
Yeah, this is true.
So they're probably definitely.
But you said what's best for humanity or what's worse for the world?
Might be good if we can't hear each other, though.
Do
you think there'd be less arguments in the world if nobody could hear?
Yeah.
And it was all white.
Absolutely.
And it was all language was through sign or I don't know though, because you can still write, and that I feel like most arguments start on social media now.
This is true.
And nobody wants to argue in person, so maybe there'd be more arguing.
Maybe there would be more arguments. That's true. I will say this: I've had a recent run of experiences where people have sincerely avoided challenging questions. Challenging conversations in favor of written disagreements. And it's really frustrating. It's like you could have easily called me and talked about this. You didn't have to text me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cool. Yeah, that was just a question I wanted to start out with. So, all right, let's hop into, we'll get this over with. So Zillow introduced a non-exclusive touring agreement in response to the NAR settlement. Let's just go over that real quick. We don't have
Yeah.
to get too in depth on it.
Well-
just your thoughts.
Okay, so number one, there's an invented I don't want to say interaction. There's an invented title, an invented a touring agreement is what they call it. Okay. So they define in that agreement what touring means. It's not a, universally accepted, endeavor that is normally practiced by the industry. I believe the whole touring concept is designed to circumvent the NAR settlement because the NAR settlement requires brokerage agreements signed outlining compensation for brokerage services. This states that touring is not a brokerage service and states that there is no compensation for it. So saying no compensation is stating what compensation is.
Yeah, but touring's definitely a brokerage.
Well, my argument, Ryan, is that I can't tour a property, even by their definition, with a buyer and ensure that that the buyer does not disclose private information to me, which immediately creates an agency relationship in the state of Kentucky. So this is essentially, if not requiring, it's begging me to violate license law or contradict license law.
Yeah.
So I get what they're doing, right? Zillow is a brokerage. Zillow is trying to be compliant. They absolutely will come up with something similar to this, if not this exact thing, as a result of the NAR settlement to protect themselves. Otherwise, they will cease to be in the lead business anymore. It's not going to happen, right? At least not for the foreseeable future.
So Zillow's doing this because they're a brokerage and they're trying to comply.
Well, they have to comply. I mean, the industry has shown that it is vulnerable to these types of lawsuits. And what Zillow is trying to do is protect themselves, protect their partners, right, by being compliant, right? Blanket immunity has been issued not for Zillow, but for NAR members, which I guess technically they are. I would assume they are. They're members of our local association, which requires NAR, right? Interesting. It would be an interesting thing to see if Zillow is covered under the Sitzer-Burnett settlement, which negotiated blanket immunity of brokerages that meet certain criteria, right? And I believe the controlling factor there, Ryan, is agent count. So Zillow, I think, technically would fall beneath, despite being probably the largest company, one of the largest companies, certainly by market cap. I think as a brokerage that generates revenue in other ways, they don't have too many agents to qualify.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, if you look up, from what I remember, Flex MLS members, there's only 2 Zillow contacts on there as a member of the MLS, so I would say that's 2 agents.
2 agents, which could be the same 2 agents in every market.
Yeah, could be.
Right? So they could literally have 2 agents. They could have a principal broker and 1 agent, and that is it. They could have a principal broker. Honestly, they're not required to have any more than just a principal broker.
So do they have to be a member of every MLS and pay dues to every MLS?
That is unclear to me. I know they are a member of a number of MLS systems.
Yeah.
Now, whether they join every single one nationwide, I think would be, it's not something I could speak to.
Yeah.
Zillow did what they did prior to being a member. What happened, among other things, is that MLSs began to revoke their access to data, right? So Zillow had to get their data from somewhere. They got it from MLS systems. They got it from MLS systems at the request of members of those MLSs, right? So I want my listings to be on Zillow because consumers are on Zillow and they help me sell. So I go to GLAR and negotiate to have access for Zillow. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And it wasn't me, but it was somebody before me. And then they said, the MLS system said, okay, it's not just Jay's listings that we want on here. We want all listings on here. It benefits our consumers. So we're going to negotiate a deal directly with Zillow. And so that's how Zillow got its data originally. But when the notion in the industry was that Zillow was working against agents in some of their pursuits, the boards of realtors, which are made up of members, began to vote in some areas to revoke their access. Well, they can't sell advertising if they don't have listings. So Zillow said, well, we'll become members. So that at that point they became a brokerage, and I think it lowered the barriers to them receiving the data. There are benefits to being a member organization. You receive data sooner, so that improved their turn times, that the listings would show up on Zillow rather than a couple of hours. It was instantaneous, things like that. So that's how it happened. I don't know if they've gone about joining every organization nationwide, but maybe.
One thing I've wondered and thought about is if Zillow ever had to or tried to make their platform not free for the consumer, could they charge a $5 a month subscription? Are they large enough, and do they have enough market share where people are just so conditioned to use Zillow that they could charge and make enough money to where it makes sense?
Make enough money. What is that? What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, more than what they are now.
What's that? More than they make now?
Honestly, though, maybe not. Like, recurring revenue is worth more than
Well,
non-recurring revenue.
you don't know that answer. I don't know that answer. They have recurring revenue. They have contracts with the advertising agents.
Yeah.
They have a reasonable expectation of earnings from flex teams. But it's really interesting to see where they go. I have often said that, Zillow is the most interesting use case for how the market changes going forward from my standpoint.
Yeah.
So, for example, a discussion we've had amongst agents here, experienced agents that are not advertisers with Zillow, either in flex or market-based pricing, it has been our expectation that we will see some type of opt-in, right? Some type of mimic used by Zillow to essentially achieve what this 7-day agreement they released yesterday does, to clear them and their liability of their partner agents showing leads, showing people houses that originated on their site. Follow? So, but what you think in that moment is, while it's non-exclusive now, at what point does it become exclusive? And who is the exclusivity owed to? The partner agent, Zillow themselves? So will there become a day where you will get referred a client?
Okay.
You get referred a client that is the son or daughter of a past client. And you meet and you do a consultation and you start showing them homes. And unbeknownst to you, they go on Zillow. They click a few buttons and get served up to a Zillow partner agent after having point and clicked, right, electronically signed, if you will, an exclusive buyer agency agreement with that agent, right? And they never took a call from that agent. They never met that agent. They didn't agree to a showing with that agent. They just click, 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 right? And business as usual. Public record gets filed, right? Their names come up on a deed, right? Zillow runs a back search, says, hey, we've got an exclusive buyer agency agreement with them. Now, that buyer or you as their agent gets served with a notice to forward the commission because they're on an exclusive buyer agency agreement. Now, my argument to the agent that brought this up was that that is a PR hit that Zillow could not survive. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe them to be the big bad wolf that everybody, I won't say everybody, but that a lot of agents think they are. Okay. But even if they were, right? Because you can count on corporations to serve a profit motive. You can count on people and corporations to serve their own best interest. That's a mutually assured destruction, right? They can't do that, right? But what they might do, right, is move towards trying to get exclusivity for their partner agents. And then they have a local partner, if you will. So it could just as easily been that they sent the client to me, but you sold them a house, and now I'm calling you saying, where's my commission?
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to play out, man. We're in a really interesting time for the industry. But I will say that the majority of the changes have at least, even if ineffective, they've at least, I think, been genuinely in the interest of the consumer. As ineffective as they may be, that's at least what's being tried. So, I've not softened my stance. I'm still not a fan of the settlement and the requirements that come from it. But again, Zillow's an interesting use case. I'm really excited to see. We've got a front row seat. So I'm
We still
excited.
have zero idea how this is going to play out.
Well, preliminary approval has been issued, but the deadline has been pushed back. So we're looking more like November now than we are June or July. But, again, still don't know what it's going to entail.
Yeah.
Entirely.
Okay. Cool. Let's move on. It's our last kind of blah thing of the day. I think, those are good convos, but this is kind of our last real estate economy thing. So Federal Open Market Committee has a meeting today at 1:00, and people are saying it's the biggest Federal Open Market Committee meeting of all time.
Why so? Educate me.
Inflation's been going up still.
Yeah.
And right now we're going to find out if they're going to stick to saying they're going to cut rates later this year or not.
There's no way.
You don't think they'll stick to say they're going to cut rates?
I mean, they're subject to say whatever they want, but I think there's no way that rates get cut. We're stagflation, babe. That's
So
what
you
it's
think
coming.
the market drop off over the last few days is
What do you think? I think we're pricing it in. We're pricing in the information that is yet to be received by the public. But you know what? So core inflation has increased 2 months consecutive, while it was just issued that economic growth fell to 1.6% for Q1 versus like 3.6% in Q4 of 23, something like that. Are those numbers correct? I think I'm pretty close.
Yeah.
So you had a 2% decrease in economic growth, coupled with 2 consecutive months of increased inflation, after we've been told, after rate drops have been telegraphed, after soft landings have been predicted. I think they're running out of time. I think that the sands in the hourglass are getting very small, and the 3-card money and hiding the backlash, economic backlash from COVID and big budget deficits and things like that, it's coming home to roost, man. I just don't. I think rates are higher at the end of the year than they are now.
I agree. I don't know if they're
I hate
willing to
it.
signal that yet, though.
They're not willing to signal. Well,
I think they want to see a market rally again before.
So I mean, if you can't run on lower rates, then you're trying to run on market rally. I mean, I don't.
You
don't believe
it's your only option.
I mean, I suppose it is.
Like, what's he gonna do?
I suppose it is. I mean,
The last few days, I will say, I'm usually not somebody who, I don't know, I don't try to like get too down or too high on the market or what people are saying, but the last few days have felt pretty bearish. Like, just nothing feels really good right now.
No, not at all.
And it's still crazy but the housing market, there's no homes for sale, so homes are still selling for a ton.
Homes are still selling.
And fast, unless it's overpriced and not move-in ready. But other than that, homes are flying off the market for over asking.
I agree.
Things just feel so off right now, and more than likely they're going to kick the can down the road still. But I don't. It's weird, man. I don't know where we go from here.
Okay, by my count, very simple count. Bitcoin has increased and decreased more than 5% 10 times in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
So I really, really need ChatGPT to give me an answer on this buying strategy, this buy sell strategy that I have.
think Bitcoin goes down quite a bit from where it's at right now.
You think so? It's at 56 now as of
think
this
so.
morning.
I think we can see it in
Down 6% today.
low 40s to mid 30s, maybe.
Down 60% today. I might be a buyer, Ryan. I might be a buyer if it does that.
I would be for sure.
Well, you're always diamond hands.
Yeah,
All right.
I haven't bought any in a while. Just kind of been
Really?
sitting and
got
waiting to
two
see
coins?
what happens. But right now, I don't know. I lost
want
them
me
in a
to say
boating accident.
You lost them in a boating accident. They're all gone.
But yeah, I don't know.
Sorry,
it
you
just
don't want
felt
me putting that out
weird,
there?
so
Okay,
I've just kind of been hanging out. We'll see what happens. I think it goes down though.
Gotcha.
Matt Hoagland won't like to hear that, but
Jeremy and I were talking about the other day. There was a time in like 2015, 2016 in the old office that we had over at Commonwealth Bank where Jeremy was really selling me hard on Bitcoin. And
was he really?
And I refused. Yeah. And I don't think he ended up buying or he sold too quick or whatever. But I mean, Bitcoin was at like, I don't even remember, like $2,000 or $3,000.
Let me Google what it was.
You have to, yeah. I don't know. It could have been, but this was 2015. Tell me what it was in 2015.
Okay, quick search.
10 years. It had to be more than that. $500, $600 in 2016.
400. The closing price for Bitcoin in 2015 was $430.
It spiked to 19,000. It might have been 2017 because that's when it saw a big run. It spiked to a peak of 19,140 in December 11th of 2017. So
I wish I was out of college by then and paying attention to this crap. I was too worried about drinking beer and playing golf.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I was a real estate agent making pretty decent money from 2009 to 2012, and I didn't buy every house I ever thought about buying. If I'd have just bought every house I ever thought about buying, I probably wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Well, yeah, and I don't know. We're talking about how weird the economy feels right now, and still with, say, it gets as bad as we can imagine it, I still don't see real estate prices falling that much.
I don't see them falling at all.
Like, I know people are waiting on the side with cash, which is probably a smart thing to do right now, but I don't think you're going to be able to get in real estate any cheaper or much less cheap than what it is right now.
So
maybe you'll buy stocks or Bitcoin or something like that.
Do you remember in, let's say, end of 22, early 23, when everybody was predicting market crash and I was doing videos, telling people the market is not crashing?
Yep.
I know Hannah remembers it. It's back of what we used to think was viral. We'd get 7, 8, 10,000 views on one video, and we were like, "Oh wow!"
And, a lot of agents were doing that, but some agents were doing it the wrong way, which was very annoying.
Very annoying.
Yeah,
very annoying.
The way you were doing it and we did it on the show, I would say was the right way to do it.
All I said was that inventory is so short that it would take an enormous amount of unemployment to cause a downturn in real estate prices. That is literally the entire, like A to Z of my argument. It would take a ton, and we never saw it. What do you have? The president is out there campaigning on lack of unemployment right now. It's like his chief argument for re-election is, I put America back to work after COVID. Mm-hmm. That's what he's saying. And unemployment has been low. Right? I think because there's a lot of money been injected into the economy, right? And business owners are stomaching substandard performance because they have cash on the sidelines, right? That's what's happening. So we haven't begun to see employment change. That said, right? We haven't seen any downturn in real estate prices. We haven't, and we're not going to.
I don't think so either. And, we're talking about the housing shortage. There's a study about to come out. I heard that Hardin County is short 4,000 homes.
Yeah. I talked to your dad this morning.
Yeah.
He said his economic indicator is travel ball.
I know.
Has he told you this?
Yeah, about 2,000 times.
He said when families, and he's got a point. He said when families stop shelling out $2,000 a week to go to travel ball tournaments that they can't probably afford anyway, he says then you'll know the economy's cooked.
Yeah, I have this theory that I've talked about on this show, though, that I think people know the economy is so broken and everything's a falsehood about the economy and how they've propped it up, that people are just going to keep piling on credit card debt until the whole thing breaks completely.
Well, answer me this. How far away are we from talking about credit card debt the same way that one side of the political aisle talks about student loan debt? How far
Just
are we?
forgiving it all?
How far away are we?
After they forgive student loan debt, that's probably the next conversation.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, how far are we away from that to say, well, we broke the economy. It's not your fault. You had to do this to live. How far are we away from that?
I don't think.
Right?
I think we're a lot closer than people think.
We gave people way too much money to keep their businesses open during COVID. We gave them money to essentially close their businesses and go home and pretend their businesses were open during COVID.
And what happens when property taxes, insurance go up so much that people can't afford it?
The precursor to all of this is the banks failed. We bought all their bad debt as a government. We bought all their bad debt, encouraging them to turn around and do it again.
We're about to start buying debt again too. They announced yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
This is, and I'll
it's
say
it's a fugazi. You know what
I
a
don't think
fugazi
either
is?
of us have been like super bearish over the last few years or like year or so doing this show. This is the most bearish I've heard you yet on the economy.
I'm really not even bearish though, Ryan. I'm not bearish. I just
And not the real estate market. I'm talking about just like what's going on and honestly just the political landscape, economical
It
landscape.
defies logic. It
Nothing
defies
makes
logic.
sense.
Nothing makes sense. You know what? The only thing that makes sense? Real estate. It's the only thing that makes sense. There is no supply, so price goes up.
But people still don't get it.
But people still don't get it. So now let's get real tinfoil hat. Do you think that has anything to do with, the animus that the public, fomented by the media, has for real estate professionals?
Probably.
Okay. So prices continue to rise. The average consumer continues to have to pay more at higher rates. And the only segment of the population benefiting is this narrow 1.5 million professionals nationwide, self-employed people that are posting on Instagram about how good they're doing in the midst of a shitty economy, right? And now we got to take all that away. You make too much money. I mean, look, I'm not bearish. Here's why I'm not bearish, Ryan, and why you're not bearish, and why I'm not bearish in the face of like us getting the rule book thrown out the window and we have to rewrite it from scratch. I will beat my competition. I will beat my competition. I will do it. I will do it in housing, even if it's not selling and brokering homes. I'll flip houses. I'll own rental property. I will do things. I will take the resources I have and I will succeed with them.
Yep.
We'll go build spec houses.
Yep.
People need houses.
Hardin County needs 4,000.
That Hardin County needs 4,000. I know where to go to buy lots.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, it's kind of crazy to think.
You know what I try to think about with recessions too? I think they're always shorter than what they feel once you get past it. Like if you think back to COVID and that like, the market drops we had, and it might have seemed like it lasted a while then, but really I don't even remember it being long at all now. Like it was pretty fast if you just would have held on.
I mean, recessions are funny to me. I mean, it's all a narrative now. That's all it is a narrative. Okay, so I don't know what's going to happen politically, and honestly, I don't care. Right? I've had the most successful years of my career with Joe Biden in office.
Yeah.
And I think he's a pretty bad president. Okay. Yeah. I really abhor the choices that we have. I tell you who I really like the more I hear is RFK. He's a classical liberal, and there's some things that I disagree with there, but he makes sense in a lot of ways. And his tinfoil hat, vaccine stuff seems less and less like like crazy the more I hear of it. But, you know,
So I just Googled, though. Here's the only problem with that. He's 70 years old, too.
he's fit, though. Have you seen him?
Yeah, but he's 70.
I know he's 70. I know, but I mean, the other guys are 80, which that's a big 10 years.
It is, but
It's a big 10 years. But look, like, I mean, we don't have any realistic alternatives at this point. I don't know. It's not a political show, Ryan. We are increasingly discussing politics because the economy is downstream of politics. All I'm saying, right, is real estate, regardless of how we play this game, is going to be profitable. It's something that's always going to be needed. It is a store of wealth, right? Owning it will always give you a leg up in this country. It's just, you got to be nimble and you got to play by the rules, and you don't get to, if you don't get to make them. That's where we're at.
yep. All right. That's our blah stuff. That wasn't
Pivot
blah.
off the heavy, bro. Let's
That-
pivot off the heavy.
That was good, man. All right. Yeah, let's move on. This is I'm very interested to know if you've thought about this yet. So even over the last couple of years, so the DEA now is reclassifying marijuana.
I heard about this.
Okay, so I'll just pull it up and read a little bit of the article. So the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration will move to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. The Associated Press has learned a historic shift in generations of American drug policy that could have wide ripple effects across the country. The proposal, which still must be reviewed by the White House Office of Management and Budget, would recognize the medical uses of cannabis and acknowledge it has less potential for abuse than some of the nation's most dangerous drugs. However, it would not legalize marijuana outright for recreational use. But people do think it could expedite marijuana becoming legal recreationally throughout other states. So
Right.
how will this affect real estate in Kentucky or land that people own? Like, is there something agents should be planning for the future, or investors should be planning for the future? Maybe you have thought about it and don't want to give out your secret sauce that you've already thought of.
Me personally?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I'll share. I'm not necessarily opposed to any of that. I'm not passionately opposed. I'm not passionately in favor. I recognize that it's widely used both medicinally and recreationally. I don't think it carries the stigma it once did, which is probably a good thing. Because I do recognize, the older I get, how many people
So many people
responsibly use it recreationally, if that makes sense.
I'm amazed at how many adults use it just like eating a gummy to go to bed at night.
Yeah. So
It is
anyway,
a lot of people.
I do know that there is industrial production of very similar products in Kentucky, and our climate tends to be conducive for production. That you could learn from the Cornbread Mafia's tale, right? Of, you know, producing and distributing marijuana illegally, and the success at one point, I think, said to be 5 times the size of the New York Mafia in terms of organized crime,
Wow.
like size and scope.
I still need to read that.
There's 5 or 6 books now that you can read. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I think it's something to potentially consider. I think others have certainly considered it as CBD has become more popular. Other similar agricultural products that lack THC, you know, the soils need to be the same for that as they do for the production of medicinal or even recreational marijuana. So, like, yeah, if you own a farm, like, I think you should be thinking about it. As far as like what it looks like for the state of Kentucky and real estate, I think it's more of an agricultural play than it is, you know, something that we will deal with a lot in the residential space. Yeah. You know,
Any loans for that will probably have to be primary,
yeah,
right?
I guess.
Like, you're gonna have to go straight to a bank
Yeah,
and
yeah.
give them your business plan. And
Of course. I mean, it would be the same as you know, a livestock business or a tobacco business, which was very popular in Kentucky in years past. You know, soybean production. Like, you know, there are certain banks that specialize in those kind of things and understand how best to underwrite those. So there will be industry leaders like anything else. I think Kentucky has proven to be in favor under the recent leadership. Governor Bashir has done a pretty good job of leaning in. I'm not the biggest fan, and with respect to some other things, but economically, I think he's been a good shepherd of our state's resources and made some improvements. So, I don't really have. I tell you, by the way, I heard recently he's ascended in popularity to the nation's third most popular governor.
Yep.
Which is pretty spectacular.
I thought I heard first. The most popular.
I don't know about that.
Could be wrong.
Maybe I don't know. I'd have to find the list. But I wanted to say it was third when I saw it.
Either way, in
you can
a
probably
Republican heavy state,
regardless in Kentucky, that's pretty crazy. We don't get a lot of notoriety for the way our state is run nationally. I mean, we are widely regarded as about as successful as Mississippi. We're poor, our education falls behind, we're in deficits. So I can acknowledge that he's done a pretty good job in some things.
Yeah.
I just didn't like that he wanted to put a mask on my 2-year-old. That was really what it boiled down to. Pretty narrow in scope there. So yeah, how does it affect real estate? I don't know. At this point, we're trying to become in a leader in crypto mining. We've made some ventures into that. Lithium-ion battery technology is a big thing for the state. We have low taxes. We have a low cost of living. I mean, I could see them adopting something like that.
Well, we talked about last show. We really do have low taxes here in Kentucky. But there's going to be people that listen to this and think we're crazy saying that.
Well, they've never lived anywhere else.
Or, you can just go look at other people's tax rates.
It's literally property taxes in Ohio are 3x what they are in Kentucky.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy if you ask me.
Yeah, that is crazy.
And Ohio is, I would say, alternatively quite similar to Kentucky in terms of, geographic locale, values, way of living. Yeah, they have Cincinnati, which is a big city, and Cleveland, which is a big city, both of which are twice the size of Louisville or more. But outside of those major metros, very similar to Kentucky. If you ask me.
We'll get clipped on social media and we'll get some Ohio people going at us saying we're crazy for that. But all right, let's move on. So this is a good question, Jay. At what age did you start hiring someone to mow your grass? I was thinking about this yesterday because I'm considering doing it. And was it to save time or was it because you hit a certain income goal?
I started.
And I'm just assuming actually someone takes care of your grass.
Yeah, I don't cut my own grass. I started paying somebody to cut my grass prior to my first child's first birthday. And that was just simply because I was working a lot. I've been pretty transparent about our parenting kind of journey, and Jen had some battles with postpartum stuff, and Jen and I are both type A achieving personalities, and we felt it was best for our family for her to stay home after the birth of our first child. But we found out we were expecting. She had just started grad school, so that didn't work. So there was a lot of pressure put on me going from a 2-income, because she had a great job, 2-income to a one-income household. I was trying to build the business. I was working long hours, and then I would come home and cut the grass on the weekends, and I'd spend 2 hours in that outside, and it just didn't work. It was okay, I don't care what it costs. I don't care how. This is something I've got to get the time back for my wife and for spending with my child. So
it's funny. It's my little one's 9 months today, so I'm considering this right before his first birthday.
And that's why I found the question to be very hilarious for the timing.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I'm like, man, I'm just tired of doing it. It's not that I hate doing it. It's just I'd rather use that time something else. And
I totally agree.
You also spend time worrying about it because you don't want your neighbors
because when you come home after a long day of work and it really needs to be done, and you kick the can to the next day, and then it doesn't work, and that now your neighbors are looking at you like you're feeling judged. Yeah, it's just better to have it off your plate, man.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's see. I got one more thing, Jay. We've been going about, I think, 45 minutes now. So one more thing. So I went to a Bellarmine golf alum. I guess, I don't know, meeting or just they threw an event last week. Last Friday morning, Jimmy Kirchdorfer came and spoke, owner of ISCO.
Okay.
And some interesting facts about the PGA Championship that he told us, which I don't think is a secret or anything. So, he was saying in 2014, the last time Louisville hosted the PGA Championship, a lot of people came, but the businesses didn't show up for it. Like, it was a good event, but, corporate businesses didn't really show up. This year, we're set to make the most money, or the PGA is going to make the most money ever from a major through corporate businesses, ticket sales, and the volunteer. When they put the volunteer sign up out, sold out faster than it ever has.
Wow.
So Louisville's already crushing the PGA Championship, and it's not even here yet. And it's really all thanks to Jimmy Kirchdorfer, Chess Musselman, Junior Bridgman, and anybody else that had anything to do with that deal of buying Valhalla. And he talked to Jimmy Kirchdorfer's awesome, loves golf, loves Louisville, loves the state of Kentucky, and he talked about buying Valhalla was a defensive move because for example, CEO of Yum is a member out there, and he said he probably wouldn't have brought Yum here if we didn't have a championship level golf course.
Wow.
So you think of all these big businesses, they love golfing, but they want the top of the line golf courses to play while they're here. So, it's very important to the city of Louisville more than anybody could ever know.
That's interesting. So I recently heard that based on some technicality that the PGA won't come back after this year. Is there something?
No, he said they have plans to have more majors. So
okay. So is some sort of certification that they have to get back as a result of the sale or something like that?
Maybe. And the reason the PGA Tour ever owned Valhalla was in case, let's say, they were going to have a tournament somewhere and the place flooded or the greens got some kind of bacteria and were ruined and they had a golf course to move the tournament to. Huh. Well, in 2020, they moved, I can't remember which major it was, but they moved one of the majors away from Trump's golf course. Yeah. And they thought they're going to have to, it was the PGA Championship. They thought remember 2020, people were like, we're going to get the major. Well, 6 other golf courses raised their hand and were like, hey, we'll host it. So
yeah, of course.
Then they realized they don't need this golf course on their balance sheet because they don't really have this problem. So that's why they ended up selling the golf course.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm super excited. Obviously, you and I are going to go together now. We've firmed that up over the last couple of days. We're going to be there Friday. I'm excited, man. It's been a long time. It's been since the Ryder Cup that I've been to an event. I think we've had a senior PGA since then, since the Ryder Cup. But I was there Ryder Cup Sunday at Valhalla.
Well, we've had a PGA Championship since the Ryder Cup.
We had it. Okay, did we? Okay, so what? So that was 14? When was the Ryder Cup?
Rory McIlroy won. He beat Phil on the last hole.
Okay, I didn't make it to that then. So it's been some time since I've been to a tournament out there, and I think it's a great venue. I mean, you can hustle your butt off and see a lot of golf, but I don't know, pretty picturesque. At least coming down the last 3 or 4 holes. It's made for a late finish. I
was late.
I really like the course. So, yeah, man, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Can't wait. I mean, it's just action-packed summer in Louisville this
year. Very much so.
Great concerts, which I'm probably least excited for. Like, I don't know, concerts are cool, but they don't get me really that excited. But Derby is amazing.
Derby's amazing. PGA right after it.
Championship's amazing. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about concerts. It's just my preference.
Yeah. Well, since we've been talking about this, I've been trying to Google and figure out who America's most popular governor is. And everywhere I'm finding, so the most recent list I can find is 2023. But a recent article by ABC News states that Vermont's governor is number 1. And that was who was also number 1 in the 2023 list. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey in 23 was the last. He got term limited, and then there was obviously a governor's race that had a ton of controversy as a result. So I don't see Kentucky, but it's not a list in this article. It's just kind of, essentially an article stating that the majority of America's governors have high approval ratings.
So sometimes when I try to find something, I realize how poor Google is at finding what I want.
It really is. The gist of this article is that since COVID, governors' popularity rankings have soared because of the essentially the factor that they became so much more visible, which is kind of an interesting, and we can wrap on this, Ryan. I don't want to go forever today, but like I could probably name you the governor of at least 20 states.
That's impressive.
And
I could not.
I could not do that prior to COVID, right? But if you remember, so many of the policies were enacted at the state level, and like I remember thinking, talking to real estate people, oh, they can't show houses in Michigan, and that governor is this, and oh, they can't show houses in Pennsylvania, but that governor is this, and here we are, typically a conservative voting state with a Democrat governor, but he's actually been pretty lenient on what we can and can't do. So I mean, it was kind of crazy. Like I couldn't have told you, right, any governor other than the state of Kentucky probably prior to COVID.
Yeah, I wonder
it's a wild thing.
I wonder why they're enhanced so much more other than social media.
It's social media, and it's the fact that they were put front and center, I think, as a result of their own policies.
Or COVID also, yeah.
Because of COVID. So, all right, I think that's all the time we got, right?
That's it.
All right, great show. Appreciate it, Ryan, as always, for the preparation. That's all we got for you this week, folks. As always, please follow us on the socials at JPitts Realtor on Instagram, at ryanharris.re. Also on Instagram, you can find us on all the other platforms. I think Ryan's is the same across the board.
It is.
But engaging with our socials is the best way that you can engage with the show. Feel free to reach out to us. Other platforms, DMs, whatever, they're all open. Happy to answer your questions on the show. Appreciate your viewership and listenership as always, regardless of where you podcast. You can find us. But once again, for this week, that's all we got for the Jay Pitts Show. I'm your host, Jay Pitts. For Ryan Harris, we'll see you soon.
Peace.